The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Welcome to Leadership Podcast. It's another edition of The Big Issue. As usual, I'm your regular host, and with me here in the studio is our in-house analyst, waiting vibrantly to take on the big issue of the day, which is still an issue bordering on the country's electioneering process. Well, with me here in the studio is Silas Ezogu. And of course, another of your regulars here, Chibuzo Kaibe, a very, very vibrant political analyst. Well, for the big issue of the day, it is the federal government's treason allegation against presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, and his running mate. Well, just days after a leaked audio tape, purportedly being a conversation between the Labour Party presidential candidate, Peter Obi, and the general overseer of Living Faith Church, Aka Winners Chapel, Bishop David Oyedepo, made the news. The Labour Party candidate has been accused of treason against the Nigerian state. The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, on Tuesday gave government's position during engagement with journalists in Washington, D.C. Mohammed accused Obi of inciting people to violence over the outcome of the presidential election, saying it is treasonable. Obi, who came third in the last presidential election, and his running mate had publicly called their supporters to refrain from violence while they challenged the result in court. And of course, now they are accused of treason. Silas, we will just go straight and look at the matter. The treason issue. What is even treason in the first place? Treason, in this context, is the crime of betraying one's country, especially by attempting to kill or overthrow the sovereign government. And I don't know where Lai Mohammed would have come with the idea of this treason. Of course, we have a leaked video, audio containing a purported conversation between Obi and Bishop Oyedepo. So we know while we're waiting to hear that is that we have done some forensic this to confirm that what we are hearing now is just treason. And we will begin to wonder, as weighty as this allegation is, whether we could actually agree that the Labour Party presidential candidate is running mate actually guilty or culpable of the allegation of treason.
George, I feel like kind of laughing when you are making a premise. From the story we read, that we just look at. He said the Labour Party candidate and his running mate has repeatedly called their supporters to restraint while they pursue the matter in court. Yes, the government said they are inciting violence in terms of control government. You even ask yourself, I've heard a lot of commentators talk and they are laughed off Mohammed's statement, say that he's living up to his name by and he's taking a right to the international forum. And then you accuse somebody of treason, and the person is not under arrest. The government has the security agencies, everybody, the man is in the country, the two of them are free. They are working free, and they have done treason. And the government has no order to arrest him and charge him for treason. They are going to tell the international community that somebody might have my country has committed treason, and he's a free man walking around. Why arrested him? What tells you? What does it tell about a government? A government is not able to even keep the law. So I think what I want to tell this large community is that even a very embarrassing situation for that man, like his government has some reasonable people in his country, and he knows them, he called their name, and he didn't bother, and the man arrested them and charged them to court. So is it, are they asking the American public, to come and help them arrest them and try them for them? What was all this about? You know, uh, sometimes you don't know whether that man is the minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which means he's the minister of information for a government that represents all Nigerians, including the opposition. Because every minister works for Nigeria. Remember, according to the president, earning his pay working for Nigeria. Nigeria knows your federal government, those of Nigeria. The federal government of Nigeria, but the federal government is working, holding position on behalf of Nigerians who voted him in. So maybe sometimes he forgets that. Maybe he thinks he's still the spokesperson of an opposition party. It's speaking like a APC spokesperson. So in this case now, he tried to defend election that the APC government conducted, which has raised a lot of controversy, a lot of tension, pent up emotions and people has. And he tells the international community who came to Nigeria to monitor the election and score this low and see to all irregularities and that the big expectations from Nigerians had not been met. You are going to tell the same people that the election was defaced in Nigeria. I don't know that those people adapt. So I don't know what that man was trying to achieve, what he's saying, but to me, he might have just made a laughing stock of himself before an international audience that was speaking to. But I don't know which of them are going to believe him that he had those who committed treason in his country and he's not arrested them and coming to tell American public they have done something and the government have not caught them. What message is this driving to that place? What do they want to achieve? Apart from like the obedience, the P2P's response to him that what the government is trying to do is to cast mud on his personality, to spoil his name, make him look bad before Nigerians and the international community by making the audio tape which the B said that was doctored to achieve the purpose of spoiling his name, and they're going immediately to international community to say he's a single felony person, and so on. So to him, they're just trying to spoil his name and distract attention from the case Obi has in court. But I want to end by saying that Mohammed, when he goes to make this kind of, if you look at the consequences, the implications, the hidden meaning of what he's telling the audience, he's telling that this kind of high time in Nigeria and a person is a free person. That means another society. That what you're telling them.
Well, thank you, Silas. Let's look at although we actually, most Nigerians are actually beginning to tag Mohammed the way his name implies lie. Just like a former presidential spokesman would always describe it, the lying lie. But let's look at the message and leave the messenger aside first. And it all borders on allegation of treason. And what lie Mohammed said was the issues that constituted the allegations of treason is this. He said it was wrong for Obi and Datti to seek redress in court over the outcome of the polls and also incite people to violence. In his words, let's just quote him verbatim. Obi and his running mate, Yusuf Datti Ahmed, cannot be threatening Nigeria that if the president-elect Tinubu is sworn in on May 29, it will be the end of democracy in Nigeria. I think that was what Datti said. And then he said, this is treason. You cannot be inviting insurrection. And this is what they are doing. Obi's statement is that of a desperate person. He is not a Democrat that he claimed to be. A Democrat shall not believe in democracy only when he wins an election. And I think Lai Mohammed is actually referring to that leaked audio tape which Obi was heard telling Bishop Oyedepo that Nigeria is in a religious war.
No,
Wait, I think
no,
before we come back to you, I just want to resolve.
that's what because you are afraid of what I said, that will make to just clarify the content. First of all, that I don't think you're referring to the book there. I think you're referring to the statement made by Datti on TV interview on channels, when he said that if you swear, it was referring to a constitutional condition that if you don't win FCT, quota votes of FCT, it cannot become president. He's saying that that law has been is clean and clear that the justices cannot decide it otherwise. And if they go ahead and swear in somebody who has not made the confession that is unconstitutional, and then non-constitutional taking of power is what? It's like it's tantamount to bringing military back, that is to spread the end of democracy, because person will not approve to get the democratic traditions of being, the president. So he even looked at the camera and said, "Don't swear in this man that day because it will be unconstitutional." And it means if you swear in unconstitutional, it will become the end of democracy. So now this was said by that. But why Mohammed has been doing everything possible to bring his name into that same conversation, because this man is running it. So, and it appears that Obi is the target of that Mohammed's anger. Even though Obi didn't say, Obi has raised 3 statements after the election, said restraint, I mean, court to change the process, agreed with the court system. My governorship ticket in the election was stolen sometime in the past. I went to the court and recovered it. I still have a chance to cover this one now. Everybody go demonstrate quiet. That's how to decide the problem. So that's why people are asking that man to explain how he has incited the public.
Well, just like what you just said now, actually, if you are a presidential candidate of a party, you cannot be separated from your running mate. Because whatever your running mate comes to the public, to say automatically implies that it is what binds on all of you on your own political party. But Chibuzo, what do you think about all this issue of treason raised up against Peter Obi and his running mate and the federal government?
Well, I think it's pretty straightforward. If you suspect or if you have evidence that somebody is planning it's not something you joke with. You just come and say it for saying it. You provide evidence and you take the person to court. There's a procedure, there's a process for these things. It's not enough to come on national television and say, or go into the international media and say, oh, somebody is planning to,
or has even done it.
What have you done? You have the DSS. The DSS the other day said there's a plan to do interim government. Who have they arrested? They didn't name anybody.
That is evidence.
There's nothing to show that somebody is actually doing what or not doing the other. So it doesn't tell well if a government institution that ought to be proactive is now sounding as if it is telling people what it is not sure about. So who is doing the scaremongering now? In other clients, you don't make noise about these kind of things. You move in and you pick people on concrete evidence who are engaged in such acts. It's as simple as that. So it's rather shocking that we are here discussing, Nigeria is here discussing who is planning treason and who is not planning treason, and nobody is being arrested and nothing concrete. It just appears as if you are still in the campaign season, election campaign season, smell mongering,
Wakanda and all that.
See, the Minister of Information, I think if he had done half of what he was supposed to do, the temperature we are having now wouldn't be, the kind of political climate we have now wouldn't be as heated as it is. For one, I know the National Reputation Agency is under its purview, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it should be under
it's an agency under the Ministry of Information and Culture.
I cannot remember the last time the NOA embarked on concrete
Honestly,
orientation and
that is
sensitization
for
program.
another thing. I think this is surely to cut you short. This issue of cutting cost of governance. Oresanya's report had come with a recommendation that some of these agencies should be scrapped because they are dormant, they are redundant. Just like he spoke about the National Orientation Agencies, and as we don't know what that ministry or we have staff
That
at the
means
DG,
it's very
everybody there
important. It's a very important ministry.
It is not about whether they should be. I don't subscribe to the ministry.
So I'm just agreeing with you,
I am
Chibuzo,
saying-
that ministry has been there. I mean, that
The
agency
minister did not
This
activate
is a
it.
strategic
Organization.
that ought to have embarked on serious, massive sensitization and orientation process before the elections, all through selection season. You ought to have saturated the whole place,
Right information.
enlightening people, making people understand how important this whole process is. That is its work. That is what ought to be his work. Speaking in different, giving information in different, the various languages. That is what its work ought to be. Instead, what we have on TV is the civil society groups trying to play that role. And we have, I think, the CDD, which has done a very fantastic job, by the way. Putting out jingles and making people understand, don't hate your neighbor, love your neighbor, and all of that. But that ought to be the nucleus of what government should have been doing through the NOA. But they just nowhere. And now he's waking up and telling people, somebody wants to do treason. What evidence do you have? Take the person to court. Anybody you feel has broken the law, there's a appropriate thing to do. You take the person to the courts. That is how it's done. Don't come and tell people, somebody wants to do treason.
Listen to last year, so the German intelligence discovered, just like the DSS, discovered that some Western opinion holders wanted to overthrow the democracy in Germany. Nobody heard about it. They just quickly arrested of them, publicize what they did, show the evidence, and so prosecute them. Arrested all of them. Here I will say the government yesterday, they came with the government. That one, it didn't fly because they said they don't do people, and the only thing those people are going to do protests, violent protests, and they go and get frivolous court order. You don't have to do interim government. Those who want to protest that they are hurt by one thing or another, or that they want to go and get. So if you say somebody, the election is the election, you say go to court, they are going to court. When I tell them that they go to court to collect frivolous court order, that is what constitutes something to do things. I mean, I see the means of information and DSS are very, very critical and important professional bodies of government that should not be caught up in this kind of communication, and people are looking at it and say, what are they taking Nigerians for a joke?
The danger in all of this, and I think we've said this here, is that when government institutions, when state institutions, who ought to serve the interest of every Nigerian, begins to rank poorly in the perception index, then there's a big problem. Like I said the last time, the major problem why we got into where we are now, the major reason why we got into it, and I can say that, is because INEC failed to do what it was supposed to do. If INEC had kept to its promise of ensuring that the processes went the way, rather than this neither here nor there excuses it started giving when we discovered that there was already chaos everywhere. We wouldn't have gotten to this point. Honestly. If the police had done what they were supposed to do by moving in and arresting people who have broken the law and ensuring people are protected, in this across board, I'm not sure. But what we have now is a massive, let me not call it massive.
Government abandoning
It's a serious sense of distrust for federal, for government institutions, and that does not help any policy. It does not help any system. When there's that measure of distrust.
Well, Chibuzo, thank you. Just like Silas pointed out, the DSS and the Minister of Information are very critical when it comes to issues of the elections and issues that border on the polity. The funniest thing is that like Mohammed was completely out of the radar until I have not spoken much about this election. We didn't even see him talking much. This electoral process. Only for us to find him in far away United States,
Yes.
raising allegations of treason.
Very serious offenses.
Yes, and but what
Great.
what most Nigerians are concerned is that the the the, the Peter Obi and his running mate, the utterances might not have really amounted to treason. But I think some of the activities of their followers, the obedience, on the social media too, would have constituted what the federal government is beginning to allege treason. Because I think this issue of interim government came up when some group of protesters identified, perhaps, by the federal government themselves, according to reports recently, as the obedience movement. We are seeing it everywhere in Abuja calling for interim government. I think there was even a video where the protesters went in front of the defense headquarters calling the military to come and take over. I think I so much miss the military. The military to please come and take over. It's very absurd. They call it security as begging the
This is a serious matter. Are you making it?
No, I am just
I'm making it a life
it's
matter.
an analysis, but we can just look at certain ways
Okay.
that we might address these issues.
Let me judge.
Look at mine. Just establish, just like Silas has said. What Obi had said was about telling his supporters to be calm since the matter is in court. And of course, I can attest to that. Obi said too. He's running mate saying that if Tinubu is sworn then democracy, there's no democracy in Nigeria. Perhaps he's talking about what constitutes the case they are filed in court. So we can't say what they say amounts to treason. But let's look at their followers. The idea of staging protests, calling for interim government, going in front of the defense headquarters, begging the military to come take over.
Okay, just let me come here.
So I think I think the missing point here would have amounted. They would have thought that Obi and his running mate should do more
To hold
calling
their
their supporters to order. I don't think so.
Well, you have admitted too that they have told their members
No, now they should do more
to hold their peace.
Yes.
To hold their peace, and that they go to court, and that the court is going to address, that they're going to pursue them. But I'll come back to some of those issues. Number one, people have a right to protest. Let's not forget that. They are still in the democracy. People have a right
protest.
to protest. If you feel, in fact, if you go to Israel there has been protests in Israel for weeks. For weeks. There was massive protest in France for weeks.
Even in the US.
So, yes, in US,
Yes.
there's been protests. I'm not talking about the ones who people went to do there. I'm talking about
American
citizens.
their own issues.
So there's a freedom to do that. I think these things,
If it's not
have
violent.
to be established. Of course, non-violent, thing.
Whatever you're asking for.
However, I am not sure I saw in that video that you posted, the one that you were talking about people going to the
Force headquarters. No, defense headquarters.
I have a few things that bothers me when I see videos like that. How could people march to the front of a defense headquarters and be begging for military takeover and just allow them walk away like that? Is it not curious that people will come and make that kind of, in your words, begging the military to come back, and they understand the implication of what they are doing, and then the same military, state institution, allow them space and time
and then
to do all that, and they finished and they left. Nobody was arrested. At least nobody was brought in to explain.
What you mean by
What do you mean military come and take over? Do you at least to get the psyche of the people, and at least to ask them who sent you? Who sent you on this errand? This is not what a normal, if in a normal client, it's not what ought to have happened.
Yes, just like saying, okay, thank God you just played yourself into a security forces will catch you here. What do you mean by
Is it not funny? Is it not funny? Then you are saying people are calling for. You see, like I said earlier, if you suspect that people are doing things that are outside the law, you are a state institution. Your job is to ensure law and order. There is a process that is lined out. You arrest them. You take them to court. Let them come and defend themselves. Let them come and explain what they were trying to say.
Who sent them?
And then if they are, and who sent, and if they go outside the law, there is penalty to be applied. But you see, the problem now is we are in a position, and I've said it, we are in a position where there is so much distrust for state institutions, and it is because there is a seeming pattern to you behave this way to this person and you behave this other way to the other person. What do you expect? Is a referee in a pitch that fails to be neutral or appears not to be neutral? You create an atmosphere of distrust, and what does that mean? Chaos. So I think it's about time, state institutions begin to beat the retreat and reassess themselves and bring themselves back on track and allow the judiciary to, because that is where this whole thing is leading to. The matter is the judiciary as the courts. Let no attempt be made to bamboozle the judiciary either this way or the other,
to stop the process,
not to do what they are supposed to do. We are Nigerians. Anybody that feels something is not going right, he has a right to speak up, provided he speaks up, on the side of the law, within the confines of the law. But he does have the right to say, I don't agree with this opinion. That is the whole essence of democracy. When you take that out, what else is there about democracy?
Well, as far as Chibuzo has just really killed the matter here.
No, the only part I wanted to mention was that there's nothing to show that those who come to the army are obedient people. We saw one man who was coming obedient on a flight ticket.
Yes.
That man was making a chaos in the flight. He told her that he's not even an obedient person. Even his wife is said to have working for a Tinubu run organization.
No.
It's not true, huh?
That's not his wife.
Okay.
You see,
That's all.
These are the things.
Okay.
The
issue is that
there's so much propaganda
going on.
You said this yesterday. There's so much propaganda going on. So everybody has to be mindful of them. However, and that is why
what is being put out there in the public.
If you watch, we are being careful not to go into those areas. But our emphasis has always been on state institutions, because they're the people that will regulate these things and ensure that people don't stray too far away from the law. But they themselves have to be upright and be neutral.
So, a lot of another on this place, and everyone has to be careful. Anyway, as you have said, if the nation had followed the guidelines, the nation would have done and dusted, and those who do so will win. But now, it's like the election is starting, reactionary campaign, propaganda, it's starting all over again. That is the kind of gas streets that INEC and this kind of election have put Nigeria. We don't have lots of this.
Well, thank you, Silas. Well, it appears Peter Obi and his running mate Yusuf Yusuf Ahmed Datti are victims of leaders who cannot control their followers, and the movement they created. Because I can remember there was a time Peter Obi during the campaign had come out to ask his followers obedient to do things with restraint. And they had to call Obi to order and tell him, please don't tell us this thing here, because look, let's warn you, you are just a symbol of this movement. Not that you will come and say you are doing our thing and for your own interest, you are a symbol, just be not as if, that is the kind of thing we see, that the kind of movement that has come has
built up around
Obi is a movement that we will say it is the fallout of bad governance have actually brought about these collective social media, just like movement like Datti would have said once, the twittering collective children of anger, now facing the government by way of the obedient movement. Well, that has really helped by bringing a formidable opposition in the person of Peter Obi. And of course, the good thing with Nigeria is that there's a strong opposition now that will always make the government stand on its toes. And that is what we expect the obedience to do as the new government takes over in May 29. But whatever the case is, it's an unfolding event. And of course, you Nigerians are out there, you watch. And it is also for you to form your own opinion as to whether there's an allegation of treason or not. But in the coming days, we'll see how the federal government will establish the allegation it has raised against the presidential candidate of the Labour Party and his running mate. That is where we draw the curtain for today's edition of The Big Issue. Thank you for keeping tab with us out there. And of course, we will not fail to thank our in-house analysts for addressing the big issue. Join us same time tomorrow for another edition of this program. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.